Hi, I'm Kelly from Kelly J Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this one. It's a little bit long, I might have to break it up into a few parts. I'll put a list of everything you're going to need in the description below. So let's get started. Quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you as always for all your support. I couldn't do this without you. If you'd like to come and support me over on Patreon, jump on over to Patreon and you'll get early access to all the videos, exclusive videos. There's no adverts. There's a Discord chat, there's discounts, there's all sorts going on over there. So have a nip over and see which tier you would fancy. They've all got different benefits, and thanks to everybody who has already joined. I really appreciate you all so much, so thank you. I'll put your names on the screen. To make this pendant you'll need 0.8mm wire, which is 20 gauge. I'm using square wire today and I've opted for 21 gauge as it's a little bit thinner to work with. It's a little bit easier to work with, but it's entirely up to you if you wanted to do that. I wouldn't recommend the 0.7mm round wire because it's a bit too thin. So 0.8mm 20 gauge, but I'm using 21, so it's up to you. I've cut 4 lengths at 9 inches, which is 23 centimetres. So I'm using half round wire today instead of weaving wire. You can still use weaving wire if you want to. So I'm using 21 gauge half round. You can use 20 gauge half round if you want to. So I've cut 1 length at 4 inches, which is 10 centimetres, 2 lengths at 3 inches, which is 8 centimetres, 1 length at 6 inches, which is 15 centimetres, and a length at 24 inches, which is 60 centimetres. I'm using 2 stones today. So I've got a teardrop. Hold on a minute. So I've got this lovely teardrop. This is 30 by 20 millimeters. So anything this kind of size. This is a Java Jasper from Castans. And I've got a little stone today. So yeah, so we're using the 2 stones today. This one is a nephrite jade cab from Castans. It's a lovely and a dark, like rich green colour. So I'll be using both of those today. Anything that kind of size. So you can use an oval or you can use a round little stone, and you could also change this for a different shape as well and then adapt it to fit the design. I may be adding a few small beads. I'll add those to the list on the screen. I think that's everything. Oh, tools. So tools, I've got my pliers, round nose pliers, cutters and nylon pliers. If you don't have nylon pliers, don't worry. I just like having these handy for, you know, straightening the wires, especially working with the square. It helps keep everything nice and flat. So if you don't have these, don't worry, but they are very handy. I think I'd be stuck without them. All my tools are Tronex. My main pliers are needle nose, and I'll put a list of all these in the description below. I keep going on about tools and I'll just say it quickly. If you look after your tools, they will last you. I buy the Tronex because I've only had to buy them once and they last. So mine have lasted me. I think I've been using these for about 10 years now. As long as you don't use them on the thick wire. Keep your cheaper tools and your old tools for the thicker wires. Just use these for your standard base wires and everything else that you're using, and they will last you. So it is worth paying a little bit extra and getting a good set of tools. Then you don't have to keep replacing them. I think I was replacing them weekly at one point. So these have lasted me, and I am a bit heavy-handed, but they do last. I do. Cut your wires to the lengths that I have. Take all your base wires, and you want the 4-inch length of half round. If you're using weaving wire, then you need to weave across these wires, so you need to come up with a little weave. Today I'm just using the half round for a change, and it's quite nice. You just wrap it around, you don't have to do any weaving. So you just wrap it around, keep your wires nice and flat, and put the flat side against your wire. I'll just go around and around. So no weaving in this one. keep going until you've used nearly all your wire. I like to flatten my wraps with the nylon pliers. And then cut them to the back. So you want those wraps to be nice and central on your wires, so slide them along a bit if you need to until they're in the middle. We're going to bend the wires and we want them to be, got all fluff on me, we want them to be this same angle as the point on your stone. So grip the wires to the right there and just bend it into a V. And then you need to adjust the angle until your stone fits in there. So then we're just going to add some wraps to the sides. So take the 3-inch lengths of half round, and as we did for the bottom, we're going to wrap around the side. So put the flat side against the wire and do this on both sides. So you're just attaching wraps to the sides, flatten it down, cut off the excess. And we'll do that for both sides. So I've added a wrap to both sides. And you want to position them so they're kind of central as you bring the wires around the stone. So holding the point down, we're going to just gently bring those wires around. The stone may rise up as you bring in the wire, so you have to hold it down. So that's what we're looking for. So we've got that little gap at the top there, and the point sits into the wire at the bottom. And then holding that all nice and tightly in place, we're going to bend the wires out here. So you can grip it and give it a bit of a wiggle just so you can work out where that bend's going to be. At the top here, I'm just spreading out my wires so that they don't cross over. So I think I'm going to bring these side wires up a little bit, so they're more there. And before we tie it together, we could do with just making a gap between those wires so that when we do fit the stone, it's a little bit easier to do. So get your pliers in between, wiggle them down just so you make a bit of a gap so we can access those wires. So try not to misshape it. So we've got a bit of a gap in there. We could do with doing that for the bottom as well. Just gently get in there and make a slight gap between the wires so we can grip it in a bit. So I've got all my little gaps in there. So we'll join the top. Now to join the top, we're going to use the 6-inch length of half round. So if we start on these wires, put the flat side against, is that my flat side? And we'll wrap around a few times. Gracie snoring if you can hear her. She might be quite loud. She's under my chair today. And we're going to slide that down, bring the wires together, and we wrap around the whole thing, so we're tying it together. So I've gone around about 4 times. And I'll just finish it with a few wraps around the wires on this side. And I'll cut those, where's my cutters gone? Cut those wires to the back. That's happy snoring, that is. She's very happy. She's all wrapped up in a blanket. So make sure your stone still fits in there. Have a look at these wraps on the sides and make sure they're the same height. Turn to the back, and then we'll take the back wire at the bottom here, so wriggle your pliers into that gap from earlier, all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to twist the wire, bringing it over the back of the stone there. Same on this side, get your pliers in the gap. Wriggle it all the way down to the bottom there. And then twist the wire over the stone. You want to do it in one big twist so you don't put loads of marks in your wire. Then we're going to grip the wire at the top. So get into the gap. Wiggle up about here. So just gripping the back wire, and we're going to twist it so it holds a stone in there, and then try and get roughly the same place on the other side. Just the back wire. We're going to twist that as well. So we're twisting it in so it holds the stone there. There's a few marks on my wire, and I'll show you how to get those out in just a moment. So level it up the best you can, and I'm just going to buff those little marks off there. So I'm using a nail buffer. I bought this one online. And you just go over it with the harder edge, and then you go over it with the slightly softer one. You can use fine sandpaper if you want to, or you can use those little really cheap nail buffers. You know, they've got the 4 sizes on. These are brilliant because they get all the marks off, they make it really shiny. Better. So for the front, we've got to try and do the front a little bit tidier. So the back is like your practice run, and then we're going to try and do it a bit tidier on the front. So get your pliers in the gap there, and we're going to pull and twist. So we pull the wire over the stone and twist it a little. And the same for this side. You need to try and match up the heights. Get your wire in the gap, wiggle it down. Your pliers, not your wire. I always get the heights wrong. How far down did I go? About there. And then we pull it forward and twist. Again, you can see I've marked it. That's just the pressure from the pliers. So I'm going to buff those as well just to lose those little marks. So we'll do the same above, sort of centrally, get your pliers in there. And we pull over, twist it a little bit. Same with the other side. Try and grip it nice and tight. In the same kind of place. Twist it a little bit. I do love square wire. I don't like all the marks that the pliers put into it, because you've got those nice flat surfaces. Probably wouldn't see that with the round wire. So far so good. So next we're going to fit the little stone in here. So I need to pull the wires out a little bit. Again, I've sorted out my wires so they don't keep crossing over. My little stone is quite thin. If you've got a thicker stone, you can hold it down and pull the wires around, or if you're using round wire, you can pull the wires around, but these, you can't pull these wires around that little stone. So we're going to kind of try and get the shape. Keep adjusting it and keep going back. So keep shaping the wires around until they fit around your stone. I'm using an oval, you can use a circular stone if you want to. As soon as you've got the shape you want, you can then bend your wires up at the top. So if we attach the top, and then we'll secure the stone. So take that really long length of half round wire, and where the wires join here, wrap around the whole thing a few times to attach it all together. So if you get your flat side facing, it keeps turning around. We'll go around the whole thing. Gone around 3 times. Then we just want the front 2 wires. So we'll take the rest and we'll bring them down to the back. So we've just got these front 2 wires. Bring them up next to each other. And then we'll take this round, half round wire just around those 2 front wires. Try and keep them nice and flat next to each other. And we'll just take our time wrapping around those 2 wires, and this will be the bail. So we're just going to keep going. So I've added wraps to that. I don't think that wire needs to be a bit long, so I might tell you to cut a bit less. I've done about 3 centimetres of wraps there for the bail. You need to make sure that these wires don't twist at the bottom as you're wrapping around those front 2 wires. I had to move mine back a few times, and these wires tried to twist a little bit. Keep pushing it together as well as you go. So we'll pull it forward at the base. We can shape it over to the back. So you just want to make sure you've got it nice and straight. In fact, we could fit our stone first, couldn't we? We'll fit the stone first because we're not going to be able to get to it with these wires in the way. So grab your little stone and make sure it still fits in that gap there. Let's just finish off this wire here. I'm going to just wrap it around the wires on that side a couple of times. We cut that off so it finishes on the inside. Press that little tail end around so that just holds those wraps down in place. Then we'll pop the little stone in, turn to the back, and we need to grip the back wire. So you need to get in there and take the back wire. It's kind of go central, I think. Central along the stone. And we're going to bend the wire in like that. We're going to move along a little bit. We're going to bend the wire back out. So you end up with this little shape in your wire. So we bent it in and bent it back out. Turn it around. And you want the middle of that back wire. My stone's going to keep popping out. We just get the gap in there. Get my stone back in. Grip that wire. Just the back wire. Kind of centrally. Bend it in so we come in over the stone. Move along a little bit. Bend it back out. You can push it down against the stone. Turn to the front. So on the front, I'm just going to take the front wire at the bottom and I'm just going to twist that wire in. And I'll do that on the other side too. Try and match up the heights. Little bend. Brings that wire in. And then I'm just going to pull the wire out just a little bit on both sides so it's not covering up too much of that little stone. Just a little look over what we've got already. We can go back to that bail on the top there. Let's try and keep it nice and straight. And we're coming over the top. Then at the back there, I'm going to bend the wires out so that when we bend it down the back, this sits nicely against that weave there. Need it to be nice and straight. And then take the wire, bring the weaves together and take this wire and you want to come around the whole thing. Try and keep the flat side against. And we want it central. I'm going to part these two wires a bit. So as I'm pulling it around, it wants to go over that side and I'm going to try and pull it so it's central. And I'll go around a few more times. Try and keep it nice and central. And then I'll wrap a few times around this wire. Hold it all in place. So next we'll cut these back wires. Quite short. We'll just curl them round into little curls. So I forgot to mention about the extra wires. So I'll have to add those in a minute, and I'll tell you about those in just a second. So we're going to make these little curls. I don't think they'll be seen from the front because we're going to do so much with all these. We're going to have all lots of swirlies from the front. But you can, if you want to, just bend them over the side. Out the way. So looking at those wires, we've got the front wires, we've got middle wires and back wires. The middle wires I'm going to twist. So I'm just going to grip with my nylon pliers and I'm going to twist the whole thing around because my wires are nice and short. I can do it quite well in front of the camera. Just makes a nice change. So you put a little bit of tension between the pliers and the piece and you end up with these lovely twists. Of course this only works with the square wire. You can twist it as much or as little as you like. Quite pretty. So that's my middle wire. I'll do that with the other middle wire as well. I do love square wire. So next we're going to take these front wires. We're going to add some curls. And I do want the curls to be quite small. So you push it down at the base. And then you scoop it up and you come over the front making this little curl. And then we go around again. If you do it a little bit at a time, you've got more control over the shape and the size of the shape. Right, I'm just going to pull that over to this side a little bit. Because we're going to do the same with the other side. So we're going to take the front wire, we're going to push it down at the base, and then we're going to scoop it up and around and over the front. So as you bring it over the front, you pull on the wire and you want to match up the shape of the scoop with the other side. And then holding that there, we're going to go around again bringing it around, trying to match up the size of that little loop on that one. A little bit tighter. And then we'll have both those wires going out to the sides. Really take your time matching up those little curls. I'm going to part them a little bit because these twisted wires I'm going to push down at the base and they're going to scoop over and come over and go down the middle of these. So then that one's going to do the same. Push it down at the base, scoop it over, and then pull the wire over. Shape it around, following that scoop, and then go under that wire. Like that. So I'm going to add a little bead between the twisted wires. I've got a 2.5mm bead. So I'm going to wrap a few times. Oh, and a little bit of weaving wire. Any weaving wire will do. Just a little bit, like 6 inches. Push that along. And when it reaches the middle, pop that little bead on. And then I'm going to wrap around the twisted wire on this side. I'm going to go back through the bead and I'm going to wrap a few times around the wire on the other side just to give it a bit of extra strength. Then I'm just going to cut the weaving wire off at both ends. Press down those little cut ends. So those twisted wires are now going to go to the back. Make sure the front is still in place. At the back, you can attach to these wires if you want to, or you can just curl them down. I'm going to attach them in the middle, cut them short and curl them around. Check in the front to make sure that they haven't moved. I'm going to attach the back together with the last bit of that weaving wire that I just cut off from the bead. Slide that along, still looking at the twisted wires. go on. Then I'll wrap around the 2 wires a few times. So we've gone around 4 times, 5 times. And then finish with 3 wraps around a single wire. Cut that wire at both ends. Press down your little cut ends. Cut these wires too. We'll just curl those wires out the way. I'm going to take them a little bit shorter. And curl them out the way. Like I say, you can wrap around those back wires if you like. It's a bit of a wrestle. Just have a scan over the front and make sure that they didn't pull out of place from the front. So next I'm going to take these wires over to the back. If you just bend them over, they're just going to make a massive gap all the way down the middle and it'll miss shape. So as you bend them over, we're going to push it across the front a bit and hold it. Push it across the front a bit, hold it, and then bend it over the side so that you've still got these nice scoops each side of that little bead there. Check the shape at the front. To attach these at the back, I'm just going to wrap around those back wires. You can do more curls if you want to. So I'm just going to pull that wire away from the stone a little bit. Cut it off. And then holding the sides, I'm going to curl that wire around that back wire. You need to make sure that you're not pulling the wire out of place. So it's best to squeeze it rather than pull it. And then do that with the other side too. So with these wires at the top, I'm going to bring it over the front and I'm going to scoop it out to the side. And I'm going to bring this one over the front so they cross. Scooping that one over that way. And I'm going to use a 3mm bead in that gap there. So I'm going to attach that with a little bit of weaving wire. So take your weaving wire, wrap around the one side, push it down so it's kind of central. Pop your bead on that wire. Slide it down. I'm going to bring my wires together a bit so they cup the bead a bit better. And I'm going to go around the back of that bead. And then I'm going to wrap around that wire a few times to attach. and then I'm going to go back through the bead and wrap to the other side so it's nice and solid. So I've gone back through the bead and I've wrapped on this side. Cut the wire at both ends, press down the little cut ends. And this wire that comes over that wire, so whichever one of your wires is to the front, you're going to take that one around the bail, and this wire holds the other wire down. So take it around the bail, it'll hold that wire down, and my plan is I'm just going to put a little curl on the top of that, so we only have to finish the one wire. So that needs to come around. Cut that off there. And that can go around the front of the bail there. And just squeeze him around the bail. And we can cut this one. Finish that with a little curl at the top. So you can stop here if you want to, or you can continue. I'm going to add more wire here, and I'm going to do a similar little flurry of wires here. So I'm super fussy, I'm going to add a smaller bead. My bead's too big, I'm going to put a smaller one in there. Smaller bead. Smaller bead. Much happier with that one. So I'm really pleased how this is turned out so far. And I do want to add some extra wires here, but I don't want to rush it and it's going to take quite a while. So I think I'm going to split this video up into 2 halves. So do come and join me for part 2, and this is the end of part 1. I'll see you soon.